Are you serious? Are you serious, guys? Good morning, everyone. This is July 31st. And wow, we're only 4 days away from the biggest webinar of the year, Aliens Above and Below. But unbelievable. You would think that these politicians in Washington would learn their lesson that every time they try to make political moves to part the land of Israel, God sends a catastrophe on the land of America. And once again, a massive storm hits Washington, D.C. just after President Joe Biden tries to part the land of Israel in another peace arrangement. Let me tell you all about that in just a second. But first, let's put a shout out right now for www.mypillow.com/Paul. Use the promo code Paul. That's right. That's www.mypillow.com/Paul. Use that promo code Paul. MyPillow 2.0. It's one of the best deals going. Beautiful, amazing. Buy one, get one free. Also, there's tremendous savings on mattress toppers. The biggest bed sheet sale ever. Okay? Pillow sets, towel sets, all kinds of incredible deals going on right now. Even my coffee. What? Yes, and blankets, pillows, slippers, all these things. Going on right now at www.mypill.com/Paul. Use the promo code Paul. They tried to, Michael Lindell, of course, says he's a Christian. He loves the Lord. He has a Christian company and has done so many great things to help the body of Christ. He really has. And he loves the fact that we're spreading the gospel. His company contacted me and said, would you please represent us? We like the fact that you're spreading the gospel. And I will, because they are a brother in Christ. He is a brother in Christ. And so know this, that when you're getting those pillows, which are the best pillows on the market anyway, you're also helping us spread the gospel of Jesus Christ. Special deals for all of you at mypill.com. Use the promo code Paul. mypill.com/Paul. You got to go to www.mypill.com/Paul. Click on the link below and be sure you use the promo code Paul. And these special deals just for you have been established. Okay. Now, let me just tell you what's going on here, because I just can't, it's to me, it's just insane that we have to continue to have this conversation about touching the land of Israel. But it's happened again. A storm devastates Washington, D.C., as Biden's administration plans for Israel to concede the land. What? Here we go again. It's not just Biden, but we saw it with Bush, and we saw it with Obama, and we've seen it now with Biden. And even before Bush, even other presidents who tried to part the land ends up bringing devastation to the land of America. Well, according to Zechariah chapter 2, verse 8, listen to this. For thus saith the Lord of hosts, after the glory has sent me unto the nations which spoil you. For he that toucheth you toucheth the apple of his eye. You just don't want to touch the apple of God's eye. And you don't want to be messing with Israel, because that is the apple of God's eye. Well, and I just quoted Zechariah chapter 2, verse 8. Check this out, guys. One of the worst storms in decades ripped through Washington, D.C. over the weekend, leaving devastation in its path. The storm comes as the Biden administration announced negotiations with Saudi Arabia, and I covered that a couple days ago, that would require Israel to make massive concessions in the land to the Palestinians. And while the two seem unconnected, students of history know that the milestones in the Land for Peace process has always been accompanied by natural disasters. More than 200,000 residents were without power this weekend. Many roads, including part of the George Washington Memorial Parkway, were closed through early this morning as crews cleaned up fallen trees. More than 16,000 residents remain in the dark after this two-day storm has passed. A Virginia man was even killed when a tree crashed down on his home, And the Smithsonian National Zoo remains closed until the cleanup can be completed. The storm came in the wake of a 3-day heat wave with unusually high temperatures. On Thursday, 60% of the United States, 200 million people, were placed under a heat advisory or flood warning or watch. According to the National Weather Service, the heat suddenly broke on Friday night, bringing winds gusting over 80 miles an hour. Also, with massive torrential rainfall and frequent lightning strikes, the thunderstorms continued on into Saturday night. The storm was described as an intense microburst that often produces tornado-like damage. Many regions around the world are experiencing heat waves, but Washington, D.C. was hit with the storm of the year. Just hours after the nation's capital, directly after the White House announced that they were negotiating with Saudi Arabia a deal that the media said was for normalization agreement with Israel that would require massive concessions to the Palestinians. It's unlikely that this current coalition government would agree to such a deal, and some sources are suggesting that the White House will turn to the leaders of the opposition party in hopes of forming a new unity government in Israel, getting rid of Benjamin Netanyahu, so that they can put the other wing of the party in position that are more in favor of parting the land of Israel. Now, Biden's history with natural disasters, guys, this ain't the first time that Joe has brought these upon America. While the connection between the negotiations and the storm may seem oblique at best, the phenomenon has happened many times before. When Joe Biden took office in January of 2020, he immediately began implementing an anti-Israel policy, which included reestablishing relations with the Palestinian Authority and meeting with Iran to try to jumpstart the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. 1 month later, a polar vortex came sweeping down from the north, hitting the central U.S. with extreme cold. At least 2,400 cold temperature records were broken or tied, some of them going back 75 years. The temperatures over the southern and central plains was 40 to 50 degrees below zero as an average, and the low temperatures were accompanied by ice and snow. More than 5 million homes were without power, and most of them were in Texas. More than 30 people lost their lives. The following August, President Biden hosted Prime Minister Naftali Bennett at the White House, pressuring him into accepting a plan that would put total freeze on all Jewish construction in Judea and Samaria, and the sections of Jerusalem that Biden says are illegally occupied were illegally occupied by Jordan before the 1967 Six-Day War. As Bennett flew home that very day, a Hurricane Ida, a Category 4 hurricane, made landfall precisely on the 16th anniversary, the exact same day of Hurricane Katrina, catastrophically had flooded New Orleans, causing over 1,800 people to die and $125 billion in damage. Katrina hit the U.S. in late August 2005, while the Israeli government was forcibly evicting 10,000 Jews out of their homes in Gaza under the direction of George W. Bush. So these catastrophes go on and on and on. But let me tell you what else has happened. I look back into history to see just how many times it's happened. It's happened so many times that it's insanely impossible to keep track of it all, except one man did. William Cohen, called Facing the Consequences of Dividing Israel. This book is incredible. When I went to look back to see some of the things that have happened, I'll give you one in particular. Katrina. This happened. And that was President George Bush ordering the evacuation of 10,000 Jews out of the West Bank. And at that time, Prime Minister Ariel Sharon agreeing to it. And here's what President Bush said while at a resort in Donnelly, Idaho, August 23rd, 2005, after 10,000 Jews were given 48 hours to get out of their homes. They not only had to leave and give up their homes that they owned. These homes aren't cheap. These apartments are over $1 million a piece. And they had to grab their clothes, grab their stuff, get their kids, and get out of there with nowhere to go and lose their home, their equity. After this was done by soldiers under order of Ariel Sharon and President George W. Bush, President Bush spoke at the Tamarack Resort in Donnelly, Idaho. Bush said, first of all, I want to congratulate Prime Minister Ariel Sharon for having made a very tough decision. As I stated in my remarks yesterday at Salt Lake City, the Prime Minister made a courageous decision to withdraw from Gaza. We have got Jim Wolfensohn, the former head of the World Bank, on the ground, helping President Abbas develop a government that responds to the will of the folks in Gaza. In other words, this is a step one in the development of a democracy. As so, to answer your question, what must take place next is to establish a working government in Gaza, a government that responds to the people. President Abbas has made a commitment to fight off the violence because he understands a democracy can't exist with terrorist groups trying to take the law into their own hands. Along these lines, we've also got General Ward on the ground, helping the Palestinians consolidate their security forces. It turns out that the post-Yasser Arafat regime is one of the different factions and different security forces that were really in place to kind of maintain his power, but not necessarily to protect the overall security of the Palestinian people. So it's in their interest to consolidate these security forces. So the Bush goes on and on and on, justifying why he forcibly evacuated the children of Israel and parted the land. The same day Bush was giving this speech, the exact same day, after they've already, the last 48 hours, had forced 10,000 Jews out of their homes, the very same day, August 23rd, 2005, the same afternoon that he was speaking, and the final Jews were driven from their homes in northern Samaria, up in the west. It wasn't just Gaza. They were forcing Jews out of Samaria and Judea. A tropical depression began to form near the Bahamas. By 11 o'clock the next day, August 24th, that newly formed tropical depression, number 12, was upgraded to Tropical Storm Katrina. By 5 p.m. on the 24th of August, Katrina got bigger. By the next morning, August 25th, Katrina became a hurricane. And on Friday, August 26th, that Hurricane Katrina hit southeast Florida. By Monday, August 29th, Katrina had become a fierce, enormous Category 3 hurricane that was pummeling Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, devastating the city of New Orleans. Katrina became the largest disaster in U.S. history. The storm forced 1 million people out of their homes. Over 225,000 homes in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama were completely destroyed. As of December 2005, there were still 473,000 people without work due to the devastation of Hurricane Katrina. From August 17th through the 23rd, Israel experienced one of the most excruciating moments in their nation's history when 10,000 Jews were forced to give up their homes, forced to give them away and to leave. But America would receive the worst devastating storm in our nation's history, costing 1,800 people their lives and destroying 225,000 homes and causing 1 million people to have to leave their homes. Is it a coincidence? No. Let me take you to the Obama administration. because President Obama, the Obama administration publicly stated in 2011, month in and month out, that Israel's settlement communities in Judea and Samaria and East Jerusalem were illegitimate. Obama just kept saying that. Even U.S. Ambassador Susan Rice at the United Nations rejected the legitimacy of Israel's settlements back on when she stood up and spoke on February 18, 2011. Ambassador Rice said these words: "As I said today on behalf of the United States in this Security Council, and as the United States has said on many, many occasions for many years, we reject in the strongest terms the legitimacy of the continued Israeli settlement activity. We view Israeli settlement activity in territories that were occupied in 1967 as undermining Israel's security, its democracy, and hopes for peace and stability in the region." Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton then spoke the same day. Hillary said, "I think it is absolutely clear to say, number one, that it's been American policy for many years that settlements were illegitimate, and it is the continuing goal and the highest priority of the Obama administration to keep working toward a two-state solution with both Israelis and Palestinians," Clinton told ABC News. While she was speaking, and they were proclaiming this, then Israeli President Shimon Peres was due to have a working lunch at the White House that coming April 5th. But as Mr. Victor notes, the Obama administration was concerned about the recent announcement by Jerusalem District Planning and Construction Committee, who had just approved 942 new housing units in the southern slopes of Gilo. In addition to the Israeli government's approval over the weekend of hundreds of apartments to be built in the West Bank settlements, and because of that, not only are continuing Israeli settlements illegitimate, but Israel's actions run counter to the efforts to resume direct negotiations. So, following that, the meeting with President Peres was canceled by President Obama. So on April 14th, one of the largest record U.S. tornado outbreaks occurred from the 14th to the 16th in 2011, resulting in 178 confirmed tornadoes across 16 states with severe devastation and destruction, all in 3 days of outbreak. Then the following week, April 25th through the 28th, roughly another 350 tornadoes, roughly 25% of which were strong, violent tornadoes, scarred the landscape in what has been dubbed the super outbreak of 2011. There was 321 people killed during this period, 316 of those deaths coming on April 27th alone. It was well advertised that the event of an unusual magnitude was on its way, with forecasters and those taking notice about a week out, and the alarmed, growing stronger by the day. A tremendous long wave trough began to eject out of the west and bringing a front-running vortex. This max spawned a number of tornadoes across the south from Texas to the east. This was only a sign of things to come, as a very powerful low-amplitude vortex max poured in at a fast pace. And so these devastating tornadoes happen. We've seen it time and time again. Obama spoke on May the 19th, the same year, 2011, about Middle East policies. The United States, he said, believes that the negotiation should result in a two-state solution: the permanent Palestinian borders with Israel, Jordan, and Egypt, and a permanent Israeli borders with Palestine. We believe the borders of Israel and Palestine should be based on the 1967 lines with mutually agreed swaps, so that the secure and recognized borders are established for both states. The Palestinian people must have their right to govern themselves and to reach their full potential. As Obama finished his speech, 2 days later, a massive tornado devastated Joplin, Missouri, killing hundreds of people. It was the most costliest spring storm in U.S. history. And this goes on and on and on and on and on and on. So here we are again today, watching the Biden administration trying to force sending Jake Sullivan over there. I reported on this because I knew when I first saw the headlines that he was going over there trying to make peace between Israel and Saudi Arabia. I said that's not the deal. That's what they're telling everybody. But when they get there, that's not the real deal. The real deal was to say to Saudi Arabia, would you be willing to create normal relationship with Israel if we can get Israel to part the land and make a two-state solution with Palestine? And, of course, Israel's saying there ain't no way. So, of course, Saudi Arabia says there's no use talking about a peace deal with Israel because they're not going to part the land. And what happens? A storm brews right away and crashes into Washington, D.C. I remember covering many, many times these types of events over the last 13 years that I've been covering current events and Bible prophecy here on YouTube and on other social media platforms. I have repeatedly shown this pattern, and I'm not the only one. Well, I got a scripture for you. We should know this was going to happen, and you can find this for yourself in the book of Joel, chapter 3, verses 1 and 2. For behold, in those days, talking about the last days, and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat. And I will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage, Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and have parted my land. So Joel prophesies that what's going to happen in these end times is that they are going to force a two-state solution. They're going to part the land of Israel. And when they do, God will bring the entire world, all the nations that were in on this, he will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, just outside the eastern gates of Jerusalem, and he will plead with them not to do this. He will literally plead with them, don't do this. But according to Jesus Christ, apparently they do it because even Joel says, because they have scattered my people among the nations and parted my land. Then you can read in the book of Zechariah that says that Jerusalem becomes this cup of trembling, this burdensome stone for all people. And so God says that then in Zechariah 14, that that the enemies of Jerusalem will compass the nation and will attack. They will attack from every direction, and it will look like Jerusalem is going to fall, and it looks like Israel has been defeated. But then the Lord will come down from heaven and stand on the Mount of Olives. You can find that in Zechariah 14. And it says he will go to fighting for Israel, and he will defeat the enemies of Israel. And he will break an earthquake so powerful that it splits the Mount of Olives in half. And the waters flowing from the Mediterranean Sea and the fountains under Israel will break up, and water will flow all the way to the Dead Sea and heal the waters and heal the land. This is going to happen as Christ returns and stands on the Mount of Olives. So we're watching every day. Every time I see a new administration, I remember seeing Tony Blair do this. And God sent destruction into London. Matter of fact, there was a terrible bombing after Tony Blair stood up and said that Israel, the land needed to be parted. And then there was a terrible bombing in London. So he goes on and on and on and on. I remember one time Israel Obama spoke about parting the land of Israel, forcing Israel into a two-state solution, going back to the lines pre-1967 Six-Day War, about going back to those 67 borders, they call them. And right after Obama spoke on this, gave a speech on this, an earthquake hit Washington, D.C., 5.8 quake, but it was very shallow. It knocked 3 stone crosses off the top of the Washington National Cathedral. It knocked the artwork off the walls of the Capitol. It literally cracked and damaged the foundation of the Washington Monument. It sent people running out of the White House in fear, and was felt all the way to the north of into Manhattan and New York, where the United Nations building swayed, and people ran out of there thinking that the building was going to collapse. This all happened because of a speech that Obama gave, although none of these world leaders will acknowledge any of this. They refuse to acknowledge it. They just keep coming back, trying to defy God. But I'm telling you, God's not mocked. God is not mocked. We'll continue to keep an eye on all this. Now, guys, these things all are same things happening right now with this entire alien disclosure. They are trying to force this disclosure upon humanity. The Bible talks about in the Bible of the strong delusion, that people will believe a lie and be damned. It's very important that the Church of Jesus Christ, addresses these issues. It's very important that pastors will start explaining to their people why this is an important issue. Let's not bury our head in the sand and say that people are not having encounters with entities, because we know they are. And many of them are hurting, and many of them are damaged from it, and many of them are depressed, and many of them are committing suicide after having had horrific experiences with these entities. Let's explain what they are. And we do that in this webinar. We'll give you every different perspective and theory, from the ancient alien theory to the demons, the seed war of the Nephilim, to whatever these are, these things coming from inside and out of the caves of Iraq, to the biblical narrative of the strong delusion, to the people encounters that they've been having, and from the UFO and UAP perspective and the full disclosure agenda. We will cover all of it in this incredible webinar. Please get your tickets today, guys. We're only 4 days away. Get your tickets for Aliens Above and Below. The speakers are incredible, with Avi Loeb, Mike from Around the World, Stan Deo, Stephen Bassett, L.A. Marzulli, Laura Eisenhower, Marshall Masters, Rex Bear, myself, and Bart Begley's documentary, all of it. The tickets are $55, so just go now, get your ticket, be ready. You have 4 days left. We have 4 days left. This webinar is Friday night, 6 p.m. Eastern. Do not miss this. This is absolutely the number one assembling of experts and different perspectives on this entire agenda, including the biblical narrative, aliens above and below. Give your life to Jesus Christ, because it's getting so close, it's going to be too late. Now, for those of you who think that God is going to turn his back on Israel, for those of you who don't believe that the Holy Land is important, for those of you who still believe in replacement theology and can't get a grip of the Bible, of God's covenant with the land and with the Israeli people, go and read Ezekiel 37, when it looks like the entire nation of Israel is nothing but a valley of dry bones, hopeless. The prophet Ezekiel begins to see a vision of the bones coming to life.
Saturday was silent, and surely it was through. Since when has impossible ever stopped you? And Friday's disappointment is Sunday's empty tomb. Since when has impossible ever stopped you? This is the sound of a dry bones rattling. This is the praise make a dead man walk again. Open the grave, I'm coming out. I'm gonna live again. This is the sound of dry bones rattling. Pentecostal fire, stirring something new. You're not gonna run out of miracles anytime soon. Your resurrection power, it runs in my veins too. I believe there's another miracle here in this room. This is the sound of dry bones rattling. This is the praise make a dead man walk again. Open the grave, I'm coming out. I'm gonna live again. This is the sound of dry bones rattling. My God is able to save and deliver and heal and restore anything that He wants to. Just ask the man who was thrown on the bones of Elisha if there's anything that He can do. Just ask the stone that was rolled at the tomb.
Are you serious? These bones are rattling. They're coming back to life again, just like Ezekiel 37 says.
Son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. Prophesy and say to them, thus saith the Lord God.
Here's Benjamin.
Behold, my people, I will open your graves and cause you to come up from your graves and bring you into the land of Israel. Then you shall know that I am the Lord, and I will put my spirit in you, and I will place you in your own land, and you shall live. I will place you in your own land. You shall live, 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 live.
Oh, that's Benji. That's Benjamin. Dry bones live, live, live. Dry bones live, live, live. Dry bones live, live, live. Dry bones live. Oh, man. Oh, yes, that's right. Wow. Powerful song, Rattle. It's on my brand new album, Harmonize and Prophesy. If you haven't got that album, a lot of folks say this is the best song on the album. It's tremendous song. I don't know. There's so many good ones on this one. Let me just say that was Benji. That's Benji. Of course, you guys, some of you remember Benji. Benjamin. He is a Papillon from France. He has that Napoleon Bonaparte attitude about him. He's been named, though, after the smallest tribe of Israel, Benjamin. And he's been with us 2 years now. He's been living in Indiana for the most part. And, of course, we know Sugar passed away on June the 2nd. So we have decided to bring Benji to Florida with us and to let him spend time with us here. So Benji has arrived, and he is going to be staying here in Florida with us now. When Sugar got really sick and was too weak, and Benji's full of energy, we decided to leave Benji in Indiana and bring Sugar to Florida, where it'd be peace and quiet. And so that Sugar's last 4 months was more slower and quieter, and because she was ill and was in the process of passing away. So now we've brought Benji to Florida because we're pretty lonely down here without him, and so he's here. He just arrived this morning, and so we're excited about that. As I got my son Bart, his wife Emily, and 2 of my granddaughters, Lexi, who does the singing on my albums, and also Summer. They're going to be here for a week. They're going to visit for a week. They brought Benji to us before they go back to Indiana and the girls go back to school. Lexi will be going to college, and Summer will be going to high school as a freshman. So pretty excited about all of that. So Benji's here. That's what you saw. That was the arrival of Benji back to Florida. He is here to stay. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed this broadcast. I wanted to bring all this together. Oh, by the way, in Revelation, our book, Revelation 9:11, it's available. It's pre-sale right now at Amazon. If you get a chance to get your pre-sale, I just heard from one lady told me she just went and bought 3 of them. She pre-bought 3 books because 2 of them are going to family members. Another lady said she was buying 10 of them so that she could give them to family members. I'm here and to friends. I'm telling you now, it got off to a booming start. At one point, we went all the way to number 2 in Christian books, and we have for the last 6 weeks. We have been most of the time in the top 50, at least in the top 100 most of the time. We were this past week. One day we did, a bunch of folks went and pre-ordered the book, and we went back up in the rankings up to number 51. But I noticed this morning, and it's good to do that because the book's not even shipping yet. So a lot of people will wait till it gets ready till they see it shipping, and they'll jump on. But a lot of folks have been pre-ordering, and we really appreciate that because it just creates a stir. And Barnes & Noble was the first one to say they wanted to sell the book from our publishers. We're using Salem Publishing is our publishers. It actually gave us a contract to finish this book. The thing was, we didn't know it was going to wind up in Barnes & Noble and then Amazon, of course, Amazon first, then Barnes & Noble, and then Books A Million, and then Target, and then Walmart. And now it's in Harvard bookstore in Harvard is now pre-selling it. This is incredible. Only God could do this. So we just hope and pray that that the Lord will make this next year when it starts shipping, that it will be one of the top books of the year 2024, because the mess and the world to what's happening right now and how close we are to the coming of Jesus Christ and the events that are about to unfold according to Bible prophecy just before the return of Christ. So we're getting everybody ready for the coming of the Lord. So if you get a chance to pre-order, that's great. But main thing I want you to do is get your ticket for the webinar. Do that first and foremost, okay? Do that first and foremost. So you'll be ready for Friday night. We're 4 days away. This afternoon, I'm going to be back in the studios, the Freedom Fellowship studios with Israel Hall, and I'm going to be interviewing Mike from around the world for his 1 hour interview on aliens above and below. And he told me, he said, I'm going to share things with you, Paul, that I've never shared before. I'm going to share things that people have got to know. And, he talked about Leviathan's kingdom and other below. We're going to know more about that. So I'll be asking him about everything, from the UFO phenomenons to the UAPs to what is it was in those the Kandahar giant. I'm going to ask him about what are those things that soldiers found when they went into the caves of Iraq. What about Gilgamesh? And what about all the other things that have been happening? And this whole disclosure agenda, what does it all mean? And so we're going to get that from him today, and then it'll be ready to go. I'm also going to give my presentation on, and it's all going to be ready to go, guys, this Friday at 6 p.m. So be ready for it. I hope you've enjoyed this broadcast. I wanted to be sure that everyone knew, again, prophecy is unfolding here. Prophecy is definitely unfolding right before our very, very eyes. Think about this. You got this going on. You got people trying to part the land. You got the red heifer already moved to Shiloh. You got the third temple already pre-built, prefab built. You've got the Ark of the Covenant preserved under the Temple Mount. You have the golden menorah setting maybe at the Vatican in Rome in a hidden under 7 floors down in a hidden compartment. I've showed you pictures of the creepy stuff down there. There's just all kinds of stuff going on. The Temple Institute that's preparing everything. I mean, all of this is coming so fast now. It's amazing. Karen, I saw you at church Sunday. I didn't get a chance to talk to you, but Heidi said she did. So good to see you here today. God bless all of you. God bless all of you. I will be back with more today before this day is over. Just watch, hide and watch, folks. Hide and watch. Prophecy is happening right before your very eyes. Are you serious? Give your life to Jesus Christ. Be on the winning team. God bless. Benji.